Monroe and the Kennedys were pursuing their affairs, they were not doing it in private. Here at her home, there were microphones in her house and taps on her telephone. The same was true of Peter Lawford's house on the beach in Santa Monica, where she often met the Kennedys.
One of the men listening was Sam Giancana. In a prophetic airport confrontation with FBI agent William Romer, Giancana boasted about the power it gave him.
Suppose you're going to report this to your boss.
I said, Sam Giancana, I said, the President of the United States is not interested in a punk like you. And he said,
oh, you'd be surprised how interested John Kennedy is in Sam Giancana. I know one hell of a lot about Kennedy, and so does Phyllis McGuire. And one of these days, it's all going to come out.
but it was very possible that what he was talking about was the Marilyn Monroe situation.
There were a number of critical reasons why John Kennedy was interested in Sam Giancana.
The mob had learned about his relationship and his brother's relationship with Marilyn Monroe, and they were trying to get dirt on them.
Using their surveillance, the mob found enough to embarrass and probably ruin the president and the attorney general. It was this eavesdropping system which gives us a view of Marilyn's last hours.
It seems that this bugging system in Monroe's house was active from March, April 1962 until the very night of her death.
In the course of his research into Marilyn Monroe, Anthony Summers found evidence of the tape recordings from the last day of the star's life. Two men came to Marilyn's house.
According to two people I've talked to who say they heard the tapes made on the last day, they say that there appear to have been two visits by Robert Kennedy. At the first of them, there was a big row between Kennedy and Monroe, in which she was complaining angrily that the Kennedys had fallen down on a promise. Even the suggestion that one of the Kennedys had promised to marry her, and she believed them. And Robert Kennedy was responding in fury to this, and tempers were rising.
This scene, if Summers is correct, sounded angry and physical.
And then apparently another visit, sounds of doors opening, people arriving, and then a resumption of the row. But this time, Robert Kennedy is demanding for her to give him something. He keeps demanding, where is it? Where is it, Marilyn? You've got to tell me where it is. We'll come to some arrangement. The family must have whatever it is, and it's never clear what it is. And perhaps he was asking about the diary. Others speculate that perhaps he had some notion that there was a bug in her house, and the tape apparently ends with more arguing, and then sounds as though Monroe, perhaps drunk or drugged, was bumping into things, falling over, and then sounds of a sort of a scuffle, and then the two men picking her up and putting her on the bed. And there, effectively, the tape ends.
The other man seems to have been Kennedy's brother-in-law, Peter Lawford. A frightening scenario. Was she drugged? Remember, Dr. Greenson said she sounded drugged when she called that afternoon. Did RFK and the other man find anything? The diary, any of the listening devices? And this brings us to the new evidence. Evidence that could finally answer the question, how did Marilyn Monroe die? Sam Giancana, the mafia boss, is accused in a new book by the man who knew him best, his own brother, Chuck. 4 men were waiting to kill Marilyn Monroe. Is this the solution to the biggest of all Hollywood mysteries?
In the end, I have to say that this is not only possible, I think that given all the evidence, that it is very probable that something like this did happen.
With the results of the Hardcopy investigation and now the testimony of the Giancana book, the pieces of the puzzle fall into place like they never have before.